By creating a film of this type, it's my personal and virtually undocumentable feeling that this is only going to, again, cause people to say, well, gee, look at that design. I can do better than that. And they're going to try. And that's what we don't want.
That's why I'm now I feel the vibes. I know how this shit is with the program, but it don't pest me, you know what I'm saying? Because this shit is all over with through me, you know, and I don't want it to seem like in the show like I still do it or none of that. It's just that I was one of the older brothers from way back, maybe years accordingly, and just knew what was up with it, you know, so that way I would keep my repartee or discrepancy process real righteously right, you know. Even worry about it though, cause you know I don't even think about this no more, man. Cause you see how it look now anyway, right?
Ain't really we about do our thing.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
just don't let nobody know until they just see it for themselves.
You know, that's what I'm saying. When they see ours, our whole car is always crushing. You know, we was the monsters. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Always the kings of this line.
Stuff
man.
like this here, we won't have no problem. You know it. Burning that up.
Word, man. They always came to me with paint, whatever, and say, yo, Case, man, hook me up, this and that, hook me up with style. I did it. I gave him style. I had so much style from having so much spark of charisma, you know, wisdom and knowledge plus understanding behind it, you know. You know, they came to me for style-wise, and I didn't mind generating my generosity, you know, so I did it. You know, I felt as though if I did this, it's like doing a good thing and favoritism to myself as far as good luck-wise or whatever, you know. So I done it. See how I'm always doing my computers, right? Like connectors. Then you see how I got the smoothness camouflage, like you see how A look like camouflage, real neat and dipping through there with the S and things. You know, that shows you the odd even, like yeah.
There you go, the fawns. Look at the fawns.
Word.
There you go. The fawns. Look at that nigga. That nigga love the movie.
You know it's us, the Cold Crush.
You said something right there. That's right.
That's the main thing. Breaking too.
Yeah, B-boying. Yeah,
you know,
B-boying, all that.
Steady too.
Yeah, it come out like from, you know, from the streets, you know, people hanging out, they ain't got nothing to do. So I remember like before that hip hop stuff started out, you know, niggas banging on the mailbox, you know, like Hard Hands Barretto, you know Hard Hands Barretto? He's a Latin star now. He started out in the ghetto too, playing on garbage can stuff. Well, we used to bang on the mailbox, boom, bang, bang, you know, and start rhyming, and that's how Flash and all these niggas, you know, they come out to the park with a little DJ set, and now they on the radio and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? And that's what, you know, us graffiti artists now, we trying to get up there, you know? Still, we ain't getting nowhere, you know, but we getting a little recognition now, you know what I'm saying?
You know, cause we stopped writing, that's why, and it's like, you know, we know our potential. We done got fame, you know, kicked the game and all type things, you know, it wasn't no thing, we just did it and got it over with, you know? That's all it was to it. Now we be about women, cash money and all type things, you know, and that's what we...
Oh, styles, I write the way I write. You know, I got my own style. That's all.
Where'd you get it?
I made it up.
But it looks something like other graffiti styles.
No, it looks like my style.
I know it looks like your style.
Cut. Attorney? Yeah. Go.
John, where did you get your style?
I developed it, you know. I didn't get it from nobody.
But didn't you look at other graffiti?
Yeah, but just to read it, not to copy their style.
And these ridiculous fights that they have about somebody crossing them out, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, if you mess with us, yeah, of course. Nobody walks around with machine guns in their pockets. If you mess with us, just like regular people, you know, we're gonna defend ourselves, you know. And if you mess with us real, we know we're gonna come looking for you and we're gonna get you too. We're gonna get you.
So I film this fist fight that we're getting ready to have. Is that what it is?
I guess it's pretty much like anything I would do on a train, I would do on canvas or I choose to paint on. I'm still using spray paint. I'm still using like the same basic technique as painting trains, just about. I think it's pretty much the same thing. It's just been scaled down much smaller. And this one's called Sands of York. It's so letter B. There's a painting under this that I went over that I did in 1980. I didn't actually like it. It was called I Love New York. But I decided to paint this over it. I like it much better now. I could scale down letters like pretty easy. You know, I did pieces probably almost this size on a train with Aaron. We're really doing like some real like small pieces. Like they looked like they were like chiseled into the subways because the way they had the 3Ds going down, actually like way below the window. I have really no problem in scaling them down to canvas. Compared to like a piece on a train, this is like it's like a miniature dude.
Okay, go ahead.
And this one, me and a fellow named Ramel Z did. This one is the armored letter E, and he sort of has his own beliefs about that, and why he arms letters. What, to arm a letter?
Yeah.
Just so it could defend itself, actually, because he says the Christians put a Catholic symbol on the letter, and the only way to destroy a symbol is with a symbol. So in order to destroy a symbol, you have to arm a symbol, and he thinks by arming letters, this Christian symbol will be destroyed. I hate getting into Ramelzi's religion and shit. It's like too deep for me and shit. Ramelzi would smack me for even saying something like that, I think. This is an arrow, which is actually fires, and this is like some type of like maybe machine gun you would have that actually shoots rays. And this thing is also like a machine gun. And this piece right here, this is like this like gauge or hinge, and this thing is supposed to actually do a full 360, so it could even like defend itself from behind or side, or that whatever. If it was actual, you know, if it was real, this would be a weapon. This would be a tank, actually, as he would put it. And this particular letter would be able to defend itself from like writing graffiti on trains and like trying to take an art class. You know, it's like, well, I just couldn't do it. You know, I couldn't see myself doing it. So I never really took an art class. But then, okay, see, like, then there's like a graffiti, it's not really lore, but it's like if a dude's like using your style, you definitely know it, and like everyone else knows it, you know. But in art class, it seems like that's accepted or something, you know, to like use other people's ideas. I mean, most of the auto writers who write now have been busted once already, or twice, or what have you, you know. As before, like in old writers, like if you got busted, you just quit, you know. You didn't want to be out there like getting busted, you know. That was like, I mean, that was like, I mean, you didn't know the yard, or you just didn't know what you were doing, or something, you know. If you got busted, and that's how like old writers look at it, actually.
Well, actually, my art teacher started me, although she didn't know it. She asked us to do a project dealing with graffiti on a train station wall or a truck or whatever. I gave it my best shot. And one day I was writing on a lunchroom table. A kid comes over to me asking me what it was. I started bragging about the graffiti I was doing. Pulled out a pilot and showed me what real graffiti was all about. From that point on, I was just more intrigued by it, and then knowing it was like wrong to do, being a kid and all that, naturally you're inspired to do something secretive and against rules and regulations. There was always that mischievous thing about it, knowing that it was against rules and regulations, but still knowing you can get away with it secretively, and still gain recognition out of it. A lot of people didn't care for it, but there was a handful of people that still did, and those are the people that kept it alive. People like Cliff and Vinny and like Superstrut, Stem, T. I could go on forever, like naming old names. It's like, you know, ask Blade. I mean, why does he still write? I mean, he's been writing longer than me, you know?
Bronx. It started like from around 183rd Street in Creston. Then like, you know, it was like there for around 2 years, 3 years, right? So like then they stopped breaking, right? So the prez of everybody, right? His name is Jimmy D. He told me to make a division in Manhattan. So then I made one over here. And like most of the people stopped from the Bronx already, but some of them are trying to come back now, you know, because they hear that people are making money doing it. I went to the Bronx and to a party, and I met up with him after a long time. I asked him if I could use the name Rocksteady, and he said yeah. So, but now I don't know where he's at. Disappeared. So for now he left me in charge, and I started going all around getting different people, and like certain people who've been working with me, you know, keeping things organized.
Master float master, they call him master float. And he taught me how to float, taught me pop lock it, how to pop, move, like robots, you know. I just learned about 2 weeks ago. I'm getting good about a minute.
Where did it come from originally?
California. Like LA.
Is that part of breaking?
Nah, it's called electrical boogie. It's like the robot, but it's pop locking. You do a move and you like hold it, and you like move back, and then you start floating. And you come back, you know, you stop, do a lean or something, and you just float and stop. And when you pop, you lock it, you hold it there. Like that.
I learned from him, and we had another guy in our crew that used to do it, but he's no longer with us, so I just learned from him. And once you get to know, it's easy. This guy's called Mr. Freeze.
Where's he from?
He's from Paris.
And everything pretty is getting dogged. Have you seen that?
Well, you're proving right here that at Graffiti Productions that going over people is not the only way to get fame. So you have your side too. I just do my own thing.
But who's gonna tell these little toy riders here that this is one way to get fame, and the other way they see to get fame is to go over people?
Yeah, but I go over them too.
So what do you plan to do in the future? You're gonna keep just
Well,
like going over
way.
the people that you've been going over, or you're gonna make peace with some people?
Well, I don't know. People start with me, or they start with my crew. I start going over everything they have. That's it. I'm not like people. You go over one of mine, I go over one of yours. You go over one of mine, I go over everything you're gonna do, ever. Anywhere I can find it, anywhere. And when I catch you, I just beat the shit out of you. That's it.
We always outran the cops and scaled them fences, but we can't outrun each other. We can't play with each other's heads anymore. We'll be the end of our own graffiti.
At one time, we had information that these kids, about 4 or 5 kids, were going to go to a layup area and do some painting. So we went there, and it was nighttime, it's dark, there's no moon out, in dead of winter, and we're waiting and waiting, and finally we hear a little noise coming up through the bushes, and here come the kids. There are about 20 kids there. If you can visualize it, we're stuck inside the train, the doors are closed, the kids are on the outside, and they're painting away. And the fumes from the aerosol cans are coming up, seeping under the door, getting into our nostrils. We're getting dizzy, we're ready to pass out, and we're saying to ourselves, we better do something now, or else it's going to be too late. We'll have to go to the hospital. So we opened the doors, jumped down, we grabbed about 2 or 3 kids, and we let it be known to them at the time that we want the rest of the people to give us a call. And we gave them our number. The next day, the phone was constantly ringing off the hook, just waiting to just about surrender.
I know where you live at, so I'm going to pick you up sooner or later. You might as well just give yourself up. And they're really well known for that.
What gives you away is ink in your hands, if you're doing inside, right? So usually, like, you would try to, like, we try to talk it out. Nah, man, like, I dropped something in the track, and I went down there to get it and all that, and you're trying to keep your hands in your pocket like this, and I show your hands, and then he'll tell you, well, let me see your hands, and when you show your hands, if they're inked up, they got an arrest right there for graffiti.
It's up to him. He can comply, or he doesn't have to comply. He can come with me, or he doesn't have to come with me. One way or another, he's going to come with me, though.
Yeah.
You know, I have a job to do. He has fun to do, doing his trains. I have a job to do. Unfortunately, I don't think they have anything to fear from the courts. They have to fear the system itself, the train system. It's dangerous, very dangerous out there. The courts are backlogged with such numbers of violent crime, where this graffiti itself is not a violent crime. It's not a crime against a person. It's a crime against the property. And it has to sit on the back burner.
They know the yards, and they know the layups, they know the system.
Usually I do my pieces in between the lanes, if anything. You only got like a 4-foot distance in between. You gotta stand on 1 foot on one train, 1 leg on the other train. And it's kind of hard to vision the whole piece between 4 feet just to stand back. You gotta get used to it. Once you're used to it, you're able to proportion your pieces to the right size. All I know is it takes anywhere between 15 and 20 cans to do a full car. I like to color mine in solid, so I use approximately 20 cans myself. In the case of doing it top to bottom, you can either open the window and hang on the windows, open the door, you can hang out the door and fill in the top. Even one time, I even used one of those suction cups that, you know, window glass people carry, you know, put in windows. Put it on there, suck it on there, and just hold on to the window as you paint. Hey, this train I must have painted 2 weeks ago. Brand new, they already painted over it. One solid silver paint job. On the other side, I already have another piece on the other side, as a matter of fact. They paint right over your work. They leave your work in the windows. They're not buffing no more, they're just repainted. Yeah, guy used to be king of the line 2 years back. Sly 108, alias known as MC. I must have been in this yard in about 75. 75, yeah, 75, sure. I met Danko 1, who was doing the yard in here. At the time, he was trying to take over again. He didn't quite do it, but that was the first time. And I got rated the first time. Still come back for more, though. It's the excitement in it all.
What about the art?
I wouldn't say too much for that. It's just a matter of how many pieces I could put up. I really can't say that it's art. It's just, I don't know, it just keeps me going. I don't know what I'm gonna do after you're not able to go in the yards anymore, after they put up the fences and all. But, as an old guy, this guy used to be king of the line, Puma 107, right before, no, him and Sly 108 were about the same. There's another piece. Two of my buddies with a PJ Sin. It's kind of old, and you know, they clean the windows, dripping from the acid. Comet painted over a PJ. Well, that's what happens. They don't last more than maybe a week if the city doesn't get them.
It would be so cool, like if you could just get a graffiti writer or a young graffiti writer who you think would be like into it, or you just think he'll be writing like for a number of years, and just like film him through his like stages of like, you know, like step 1 and like step 2 or whatever stages he goes through. Just him on the way to the yard that night, you know, I mean, and then like him looking for that first piece or whatever. To have like that kind of documentation of a graffiti writer. That would be like a real good film, actually.
Well, it starts in darkness. I mean, that's partly romance, but it's true. It starts, it gets made, the work of art happens in darkness. Then it bursts into the light, and then we see it, right? Everybody sees it, hates it, loves it, you know, is stunned by it in one way or another. And that's kind of the feeling that I wanted to express at the beginning of the film. Henry is a very low-key person. Henry's wife, Kathy, is an actress and a very dramatic person. I remember we were having dinner one night, and we'd been kind of kicking this around, and what would this film be about? And Henry was saying, well, you know, it really is, there's rap music, and there's, and I kept thinking, well, where are the boundaries here? And is this, you know, how do we write the proposal to raise the money for this? And Kathy launched into this incredible, unbelievable aria. I still think of it as an aria, about the drama of this, of going into the tunnels, going into the layups, risking your life to paint a whole car in the middle of the night. And I thought, yeah, it's an opera. That's what it really is. And the music makes it an opera. And the dance makes it an opera. This is theater, and it's theater that's happening in real life in my city. And then I really felt it as a film. We may have forgotten in what terrible condition the subways were in, along with the rest of the city and its infrastructure at that time. The subways were a garbage dump, essentially. It was a vacuum of attention on the part of the, you know, civic authorities of the city. And you could argue that what graffiti artists and graffiti writers and taggers were doing was they were filling this vacuum the way they knew how. And in the course of doing it, discovered a capacity in themselves to make something that was transcendent. I didn't only want rap music in the film. I didn't only want the music that was, I wanted a lot of that, but I wanted another element that would make it feel like a movie. And I had seen Excalibur, actually. John Borman's, a couple of years before that, I had loved the way he had used Wagner. It was marvelous. So Sam Pollard, the editor, and I, you know, we started putting this opening sequence together and didn't know if it was going to work, right? Sam had a class, and he was teaching them film editing. So he brought these kids in when I wasn't there, and when I showed up, he said, oh, Tony, he said, I had these kids in here the other day. I said, yes. He said, I showed them what we're doing. I said, what'd they say? He said, well, one kid looked at it and he said, Excalibur. He said, oh yeah, that's the music from Excalibur. And I thought, yeah, exactly. That is what, so to them now it's a movie.
In the 1970s, New York graffiti, rapping, and breaking became the prime expression.
A friend of mine who's a documentarian saw the film and he said, God, he said, you've done things with music that nobody's ever done in a documentary before. And it's astounding and amazing. You know, but that awful narration, he said.
You know the
How
other,
could you do that?
The other thing about the narration is that he sounds enough like me that
really
I keep coming. People assume, lots and lots and lots of people assume that it's me. I moved to New York in the end of 1972. I was a sculptor, and I think I was on the verge of a career change that I wasn't at all conscious of. And these extraordinary cars are coming through the stations, and I was commuting every day, and I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get on the train and see what was going on. I thought, wow, this would be great to try to take pictures of this. Somebody should be, documenting it. And the pictures that I took were these segmented pictures, which I then made a composite out of in my studio afterwards. I took them in sections. As a sculptor, one of the things I had to do all the time was create sites for proposals. And you make your little model and you put it in a diorama, and you create the environment around it by going up to the site and taking pictures, panoramic pictures, and then splicing them together. So it just came totally naturally to me. Take a picture, jump, take a picture, jump, take a picture, jump. And this one I took 5. I would get information. And I would be told the next day, when somebody did a piece, I'd get on my answering machine.
Yo, Henry, this is Lask. I bust out a rooftop on a 6 line, bright colors.
And so I would know where to go. And I would get there right away, and it really increased my chances of getting it. Because, it's a big system. You go up sort of randomly waiting for trains to come in, you spend all day and you might not get anything. So if you know where to go and what line it's on, it really helps. I had taken pictures for about 3 years before I ever consciously met a graffiti writer. I think at 79. Another kid was on the platform doing the same thing I was, and he was the one who said, go to the writer's bench, because all the writers hang out there. For months they thought I was a cop. And because who else? Middle-aged white man, what's he doing up on the platforms taking pictures of graffiti? What's he doing getting to know graffiti writers? If it wasn't for a major bust, intelligence and then getting everybody together in one spot and calling in the troops. I was doing the fill-in. I was like the toy. This was the apprenticeship, right? You'd go out with the 18-year-old old master of graffiti art, and that way you would learn to paint. Well, after photography came along and began to be used, and especially with my pictures, I had such a big collection of a lot of the master's work. Kids would come to my studio and they would be able to sit and study it. So it sort of changed the way the whole process took place. And that's why, when we talk about Case and his camouflaging the letters, he was determined to make it so complex that even if you had a camera,
I don't think you'd even be able to read it.
Koch, Ravitch, and Cap gave us the plot of the film. It didn't have a plot up to that point. It was just a survey of, I had no idea how it would come together.
When I was fresh, it was a brand new burner. It only ran for 2 days, And he didn't even get a chance to run on the line, just like,
after one of these interviews with somebody complaining about Cap, Tony would say, we can't use this unless we have Cap. This is meaningless unless we have Cap. It's just one-sided of a hand clapping, We need to have Cap. And so I'm rolling my eyes and going, oh my God, you know what that means, because I know what that means. That's the last thing in the world within the subculture you want to do is give him fame. So I was against it, and I was taking the side of the writers and not even mentioning it to the writers.
Were you also concerned about the anthropologist, intervening in the activity of the culture?
No, I'm not that pure. And I was intrigued by Cap too, because I'd never met Cap. I knew people who knew him, but I'd never met him. I gave in, basically. So through the grapevine, I knew how to get to him. He had friends who were playing a double game too, pretending not to know him, but who knew him and were actually friends of his. And
friends who shall be nameless.
Friends who shall forever remain nameless. So through these connections, I found him, and he was more than happy to be a part of this. But he said from the get-go, he said, you can't film my face. I said, okay, and I'm telling Tony he's going to wear a ski mask, and Tony's going, no, it's just not working. It's not going to work. You can't wear a ski mask. But we have to do it anyway because it's better than nothing. So on the appointed day, he comes and no ski mask, And when I brought it up to him, he said, don't worry about it.
People don't know what I look like until now. Until they start going to the movies. They're gonna see my face. Big deal.
I'm glad I got Cap. I paid a little price, but I'm glad I got Cap. It's, you know, people still feel betrayed by it. I get that all the time. We knew that it was an amazing phenomenon, and we knew that the film that we were making was showing the world something, you know, that the world generally wasn't aware of, and that this would have some kind of impact. I don't think we had, you know, the sort of vision to understand the extent of it that it would become. Because of the photographs, it's been like a visa to another world that never in a million years would I have ever gotten into. Those photographs gave me this incredible access to meet the most extraordinary people.
It's a gift to me that because of Henry, I got to make this film. There's so many paradoxes associated with graffiti about whether it's good or bad for society, good or bad for kids who do it. It's a tangle that can never be untangled or reconciled. And that, to me, finally, those paradoxes, the most fascinating thing of all about this whole project for me. That finally there is no judgment that can be made. It just is. And you can, the isness of it is, it's poetry and it's beauty.
Star Wars had a very strong concept. There was a little question about how fair it was going to be. Did you want to present both sides of the issue?
I always remember very distinctly Case. And I remember the material of Case walking into the projects, you know, and yelling out to the people, and then the camera pans up, and then we're inside looking at him as he's creating one of his masterworks and stuff. And for me, you know, growing up in East Harlem in the projects, I connected. Case and that group, they really stuck out to me.
That was a great scene. Yeah. One of the few scenes that cut very quickly and very easily.
Tony had me rework it a few times.
Well, Tony has everything reworked.
And what happened with the guy with his mother, who was always in the...
Oh, that was incredible.
You know, that we interwove throughout.
And that's one of the big structural things that I think we finally came up with, which worked beautifully, but it took
a long time.
Well, should it be in front of the scene or behind the scene? Should it be in front of the scene or behind the scene? Mary, who started as an apprentice, by the time she left the film, which was approximately 1 year, I think, of working, roughly from promo on, was an editor.
I love the Wagner. I love when the trains come out and the music is, oh, it's so powerful and big, you know, and monstrous. And then that cut to the hip-hop music is fantastic. That's one of the great music cuts I ever did. It was Tony's idea. It's a great cut. Pump, pump, pump it up, pump me up. After the old gentleman says, it says his nom de plume. I'm a wanderer. We tried so many different things in terms of speed and tempo and changing music and cutting different phrases out of music and stuff and bringing them together.
There are no rules that you can follow, and that's one of the reasons I like the independent documentary film.
We would cut something, I would cut something, and Victor would recut it, and Mary might recut it, you know, and then it would come back to me and I'd cut it again.
Remember we went to lunch and I said, what do we do now that the money's run out?
Keep going.
Because otherwise we didn't have a film. And if you don't have a film, why do we start in the first place?
Yeah. When you see the result, when you see the reaction to it, I mean, if you go flash forward 19 years later, and I have students who I advise come to my class and they'll come to me for advisement and they'll say, you know, did you do that film Star Wars? I said, yeah. And they said, wow, that's one of the great documentaries. You know, and even my sons, who don't usually look at my films, they like that film.
What was the biggest struggle that you had?
Biggest struggle was always you, Tony.